My parents gave my sister $50,000 for her daughter's college fund on Christmas. They gave my son a $12 gift card with a note. Maybe if you were smarter. He read it aloud, thinking it was a joke. Everyone laughed. He didn't. I took his hand, and as we left, I said loud enough for all to hear, "Grandpa, Grandma, check your bank account Monday, the $890,000 trust I've been funding. My name is Noah, I'm 36, a paramedic, and in my family, I'm the reliable one, the one who shows up, the one who fixes things, the one who pays quietly and doesn't make it weird. My son Eli is 11. He's the kind of kid who says, 'Excuse me,' without being told. He reads slower than other kids, but he tries hard. He loves space books and building tiny Lego ambulances because he says, 'That's your car, Dad.' Christmas morning at my parents' house always had rules. Park in the same spots. Compliment my mom's table. Laugh at my dad's jokes. Don't bring up money." So, of course, the first thing my dad did after waffles was bring up money. We were all in the living room. My sister Paige was on the couch with her daughter Kelsey, practically in her lap. My mom was passing out gifts like she was doing inventory. My dad stood by the tree holding 2 envelopes. He cleared his throat. "We're doing something special this year." Paige's eyes lit up. "Ooh, finally." My mom smiled like she'd been practicing it. "We want to support Kelsey's future." Dad handed Paige a thick envelope. 50,000 college fund. Merry Christmas. Paige actually squealed. "Oh my God. Mom, Dad, are you serious?" Everyone clapped. My uncle said, "That's huge." My cousin said, "Must be nice." My mom just sat there soaking it in like applause was oxygen. Eli leaned toward me and whispered, "Do you think they got me that telescope?" I swallowed. "Let's see, bud." Mom called names. Kelsey got a new laptop. My sister's husband got a watch. Even my aunt got a spa gift set. Then Mom held out a tiny envelope to Eli. "Here you go, sweetheart." Eli took it with both hands. He looked proud, like he'd finally made the cut. He opened it and pulled out a $12 gift card. Then he unfolded the note inside. He squinted at the handwriting, and because he thought it was a joke, he read it out loud. "Maybe if you were smarter." For half a second, nobody reacted. Then my sister laughed. A sharp, surprised laugh. My dad chuckled like it was clever. My mom did that little giggle she does when she wants to act innocent. Eli didn't laugh. He looked around the room like he was waiting for the punchline to land. It didn't. His face went stiff. His ears turned red. My hands went cold. I could feel my throat tighten like I'd swallowed a stone. Paige said, still laughing, "Oh, come on. It's just motivating." My dad shrugged. "Kid needs thicker skin." Eli's voice came out small. "Did I do something wrong?" I didn't answer them. I reached for his hand and he grabbed mine like he was trying not to fall apart. I stood up. My mom blinked at me. "Noah, sit down. Don't start." I didn't raise my voice. I didn't curse. I just looked at my dad and said loud enough for everyone to hear, "Grandpa, Grandma, check your bank account Monday. The $890,000 trust I've been funding." The room went silent so fast you could hear the fridge hum. Eli squeezed my hand harder, and we walked out. Not because I wanted a dramatic exit, because my kid deserved air. On the drive home, Eli stared out the window like he was trying to disappear into the glass. I kept thinking I should have seen this coming, because it wasn't new. It was just finally loud. I'm a paramedic in a mid-sized city, good benefits, steady pay, and a schedule that eats your life if you let it. I also pick up overtime because I've been doing 2 jobs for years. My real one and being my family's safety net. Paige is the opposite. She's always been the sparkly one. The one my parents brag about. She married into money, then somehow still needed help. My parents helped her with a down payment, helped her with daycare, helped her with a rough patch that somehow lasted 3 years. And me? I was the one they called when the roof leaked, when Dad's truck needed new tires, when Mom's prescriptions got expensive, when Paige needed just a little bridge until next month. It started small. 200 here, 500 there. Then it became normal. My dad would call and say, "We don't want to bother you, but..." And my mom would text, "It's just temporary, sweetheart." Temporary turned into a system. 3 years ago, my parents sat me down at their kitchen table like it was an intervention. Dad said, "We need to protect the family assets." Mom said, "It's for the grandkids." Paige nodded like she was on a board meeting. They wanted a family trust. It sounded official, responsible, like something grown-ups do. Dad slid papers across the table. "You're good with paperwork. You'll handle the funding schedule." I remember looking at the numbers and thinking, this is insane. But they had already decided. The trust was supposed to be for everyone, for emergencies, education, and keeping the family home in the family. What they didn't say out loud was the real part. My parents didn't have the cash flow to fund it the way they wanted. Paige definitely didn't. So it quietly became me. Auto transfers, monthly, then quarterly top-ups when Dad decided the market was a good opportunity. I did it because I believed the story. I also did it because I wanted Eli to feel like he belonged. His mom and I split when he was little. I've had him full-time the past 4 years. He's my whole house, my whole calendar, my whole heart. And my parents treated Eli like he was inconvenient, not hated, not openly, just always slightly less. Little things. They bought Kelsey full-size bikes and got Eli a coupon book they printed at home. They put Kelsey's school pictures on the fridge and put Eli's drawing somewhere safe, and it vanished. They called Kelsey gifted and called Eli sweet in his own way. I'd bring it up gently. "Hey, can you not say that?" Mom would sigh. "Noah, you're sensitive." Dad would shrug. "He's a boy. He'll be fine." Paige would smile and say, "Stop making everything about you." And I kept swallowing it because I told myself, it's family. Because I told myself, it'll get better. Because I told myself, at least Eli has grandparents. But Christmas showed me the truth. They didn't want Eli as a person. They wanted him as background. The kid who sits politely while they celebrate Paige's kid like she's royalty. The gift card wasn't about $12. The note wasn't about motivation. It was about power. And the laughter, that was the part that made something in me go very still. When we got home, Eli went straight to his room. Not slamming doors, not crying loud, just quiet. I stood in the hallway and listened to him open his Lego box, the one thing he does when he's trying not to feel. I thought, they're going to pretend this was a joke. I thought, they're going to tell me I'm dramatic. I thought, they're going to expect my money to keep showing up anyway. And that's when I realized the real problem wasn't Christmas. The problem was that I had been funding a family that didn't include my son. Sunday night, my phone started buzzing. "Mom, you embarrassed your father. Dad, call me now. Paige, you ruined Christmas." Over a note? I didn't answer. Eli came out of his room in pajama pants, holding the gift card and the note like they were evidence. He said, "Dad, did Grandpa write this?" My chest hurt. "Yeah, bud." He stared at it. Why would he say that? I wanted to lie. I wanted to say he didn't mean it, but I couldn't, so I said the only true thing, because Grandpa thinks being harsh makes people better. But he's wrong. Eli's eyes filled up, and he did that thing kids do where they try to blink it back and pretend they're fine. He whispered, "I am trying." "I know," I said. "I see you trying every day." He nodded, then asked, "Are we still going there for New Year's?" I paused. That pause told him more than any speech could. He looked down. "Okay." After he went back to bed, I sat at the kitchen table with my laptop open and my coffee going cold. I logged into the trust portal. I stared at the balance like it was a stranger. $890,000. That number didn't appear overnight. That number was overtime shifts, missed weekends, saying no to vacations, driving my old car longer than I should have, taking call on holidays, working double shifts after a bad call, because I needed the time and a half. I could hear my dad's voice in my head. "It's for the family." And then I heard Eli's voice. Why would he say that? That's when the breaking point finally clicked into place. They didn't just insult my kid. They felt safe doing it because they believed I wouldn't do anything real. I didn't want revenge. I didn't want to scream. I wanted one clean boundary, something that didn't require permission. So, I made a list on a sticky note. Simple. Remove my funding. Lock it so they can't restructure it. Redirect my money to Eli. I slept maybe 2 hours. Monday morning, I took Eli to school. He got out of the car and paused. He said, "Are you mad at me?" I leaned across the seat. "No, never. I'm mad at adults who should know better." He nodded slowly and went inside. Then I drove straight to the bank. I sat in the parking lot for a full minute, hands on the wheel, and thought, this is going to change everything. And then I walked in anyway. I didn't make a scene at the bank. I didn't tell my life story to the teller. I asked for an appointment with the trust services manager. I sat in a beige office that smelled like printer toner and fake lemon cleaner. The manager, a woman named Diane, pulled up the account. She said, "This is a substantial family trust." I said, "It's a substantial Noah trust." Her eyebrows lifted. "You're the primary contributor." "I know," I said. "I want my contributions stopped immediately." She looked careful. "Are you requesting to pause distributions as well?" This was the moment where old me would have hesitated. Old me would have worried about feelings. I thought about Eli reading that note out loud. I thought about everyone laughing. I said, "Yes. Freeze distributions pending review, and remove the automatic funding from my accounts." Diane nodded and started typing. "You'll need to sign here." I signed. My hand didn't shake as much as I expected. Then I said, "I want a separate education account for my son funded with the amount I would have contributed this year." She turned the screen slightly toward me. "We can do that today." I stared at the confirmation page when it popped up. It felt oddly quiet, like closing a door gently, but for the last time. Diane printed a receipt. "You'll receive notifications of the changes." I stood up, grabbed the papers, and felt something I hadn't felt in years. Relief. Not happiness, not victory, just relief. By noon, my dad called. I answered because I didn't want Eli hearing voicemails later. Dad didn't even say hello. "What did you do?" I said, "I stopped funding the trust." He went silent for half a beat. Then his voice sharpened. "You can't do that." "I can," I said. "I did." Mom's voice jumped in from his side of the call like she'd been waiting. "Noah, this is insane. It's for the family." I kept my voice level. "Eli is my family." Dad snapped. "Don't make this about that stupid joke." I actually laughed once, and it surprised me how flat it sounded. "It wasn't a joke," I said. "Jokes make the target laugh." Mom tried a softer tone. "Sweetheart, you're emotional. Come over, we'll talk." I said no. Paige texted while I was still on the call. "Paige, you're punishing Mom and Dad because your kid can't take a joke? Unreal." I didn't respond to her. I didn't need to. Her message said everything. Eli's feelings were an inconvenience, and my money was an expectation. Dad's voice turned low. "You're going to destroy what we built." I said, "You destroyed it when you laughed at my son." Mom started crying. Real or performative, I didn't care. She said, "We did so much for you." That old guilt tried to rise up in my throat, the familiar one, the one that used to make me send money just to stop the pressure. But then I pictured Eli's face, red ears, stiff mouth, trying not to cry in a room full of adults, and the guilt went quiet. I said, "You did not do so much for me. You did so much for Paige. I just paid the bill." Then Dad said the line I'll never forget. "So what, you're cutting us off now?" I replied calm. "I'm not your backup bank." He exploded. "After everything?" I interrupted him, still calm. "Eli will never read something like that from family again. If you want a relationship, start with an apology to him. Not to me. To him." Paige must have grabbed the phone because suddenly she was yelling, "You're being dramatic. You think you're some hero paramedic. I hung up. Within an hour, I had 18 missed calls of voicemail from my uncle saying, "Call me before your father turns this into a crusade." A text from my mom, "You're breaking your father's heart." I stared at that text and thought, interesting how Eli's heart didn't matter at all. That evening, Paige showed up at my door without warning. She didn't bring cookies. She didn't bring concern. She said, "You need to fix this. Mom and Dad already told Kelsey. She's counting on that money." I said, and Eli was counting on basic kindness. Paige rolled her eyes. "He's sensitive. That's not our fault." I opened the door wider so she could see my living room. Eli was at the table doing homework, tongue stuck out a little because he concentrates like that. He looked up when he heard voices and went still. Paige saw him and didn't soften, not even a little. That was my final confirmation. I said, "Leave," she scoffed. "You're really going to choose this hill?" I nodded. "Yes." She took one step back, angry now. "You're going to regret this." I said, "No, I regret waiting this long." I closed the door. I locked it. Then I slid down against it for a second, not crying, just breathing. Eli's voice came from the table. "Was that Aunt Paige?" "Yeah," I said. He stared at his math sheet. "Am I a problem?" I crossed the room in 2 steps and crouched beside him. "No," I said. "You're the reason I finally stopped letting people treat us like we're optional." He blinked fast, then nodded once like he was trying to accept it. And that's when I knew the consequences didn't matter. Because the cost of doing nothing was my kid learning he deserved less. The next 2 weeks were loud. My parents sent messages that weren't apologies. They were negotiations. "Mom, we'll rewrite the note." "Dad, you took it wrong." "Paige, Kelsey is devastated." "Thanks." I didn't argue. I didn't explain it again in new words. I repeated one sentence every time. "I won't fund a family my kid isn't part of." My uncle came by one night. He sat at my kitchen table and looked tired. He said, "Your dad's telling people you're unstable. That work is getting to you." I snorted. "Of course he is." My uncle nodded toward Eli's backpack by the door. "How's the kid?" I looked at the backpack, then at the small drawing taped to my fridge. Eli's Lego ambulance with a speech bubble that said, "Dad saves people." "He's okay," I said. "He will be better than okay, because he's going to grow up knowing his dad chose him." On New Year's Eve, we didn't go to my parents' house. We stayed home. Eli and I made frozen pizza, the cheap kind. We wore mismatched pajamas. We watched a dumb countdown show and made fun of the commercials. At 11:58, Eli handed me the $12 gift card. He said, "Can we use it for hot chocolate tomorrow?" I looked at it. I looked at the note. I'd kept it, not to punish him with it, but to remind myself what I refused to normalize. "Yeah," I said, "we can." He hesitated. "Dad? Yeah?" He said, "Are we still a family if they're mad at us?" My throat tightened again, but in a different way this time. I said, "We're a family because we take care of each other. That's the whole rule." He nodded like that made sense, like he could breathe inside that answer. At midnight, we clinked our mugs of soda and he smiled for real. And in that moment, I didn't miss the big house, the forced traditions, the fake laughter. I only felt one thing: peace. The moral was simple, and it wasn't about money. If someone can laugh while your child is hurt, they don't get access to your wallet, your time, or your loyalty. Love doesn't come with a price tag, but disrespect does.